Hello, thriving therapist. How are you? Welcome back to the Thursday Thriving Therapist Facebook Live at 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope that you're all doing well this week. This week has flown by for me. I don't know about you. But we are going to talk for a few moments today about burnout and what are some of the warning shots, what are some of the causes, and what are some of the cures. So I would love to start out by hearing from you guys if you can relate to sometimes feeling a little bit snappy or a little bit edgy. Have you noticed that during this pandemic that you are feeling extra vulnerable or extra tender, extra fragile, extra reactive? I know that I can tell when I'm starting to approach a need for deep restoration when I get very snippy and short with people that I love who are very close to me. So I'm sure that you guys can relate to that too, because after all, we are only human. So I do want to invite you guys to consider all the things you can do that will help you feel restored and filled up. I've been talking a lot on this page for the last couple weeks about self-care, about burnout. I've seen a lot of discussions about this topic, and I thought we should just dive right in and have a little conversation. So let's talk for a minute about some of the warning shots again. So if you're noticing that you're feeling extra reactive, extra edgy, if you're noticing that you are sometimes moving into that numbing behavior. So I love when Brene Brown talks a little bit about the difference between comfort and numbing. And she said, I don't know if this was in one of her TED Talks or something I watched, but she said, comfort is one pumpkin muffin and numbing is like 12 pumpkin muffins. So this is the season, at least in Michigan, for pumpkin everything. So I can relate to that. We made a batch of pumpkin muffins the other day, and the numbing was there. It was setting in for me. I don't know about you guys, but muffins are a weakness in this household. So yeah, numbing can happen when we feel burned out, when we feel stressed out, when we feel overwhelmed. We can numb with all kinds of things. We can numb out on social media. We can scroll through our phones to kind of try to escape and soothe ourselves. We can numb with food or alcohol or spending. We can numb by hiding. We can numb by hoarding. We can numb in lots and lots of different ways. So I want you to pay careful attention to your own warning shots and what kinds of things do you notice coming up for you when it comes to burnout. Sometimes we also find that we feel detached, like there's this sense of apathy, like I don't care, I just don't care, and um, I know that that's always a big warning light for me when I get to that point, and I'm wondering if you guys have felt the same. So let me know. I see a few of you joined us here live. If you're catching this in the replay, just click hashtag replay in your comment, and I will come back and answer questions for you too, as always. So let's talk for a minute about some of the causes of burnout. One of the things I notice most for therapists is when we don't protect our boundaries, then we can become subject to feeling overwhelmed. We can be burned out. We can feel like our self-care drops and we feel like we're over accommodating. So we do have to be really careful about maintaining healthy and professional boundaries. The other thing that I'm noticing a lot of conversation out there around burnout is revolving around systemic issues in our field. And this is not something that I can control. I am a micro interpersonal practice psychotherapist, so I don't do anything with macro and policy level work. But when I see how many people are saying that they're noticing that their institutional challenges, whether that's insurance reimbursement rates being low, poor supervision, poor access to continuing education, or expensive access to continuing ed, there's a lot of pieces in place that are causing us to feel extra stress in our field. We have a lot of paperwork we have to do. We have a lot of charting we're responsible for, and it's intense work, right? So the vicarious trauma, the secondary trauma, the impact of really feeling what our clients are going through, especially during this COVID time period, has been extra challenging for sure. So I want you guys to pay careful attention to what causes burnout and how that might be showing up for you, because I don't want you to get there, right? The entire purpose of this page and this platform is to help you thrive as a therapist. And what does that look like? What does it actually look like to be a thriving therapist? It is a life in good balance. It is feeling like you have lots of freedom and flexibility. It is the ability to feel like your self-care is easy to access. It is all kinds of things that lead us to a life that is full and rich, and where we feel like we're not just surviving it, but we're thriving. So, what are some of the cures for burnout? When we notice that we are in a state of feeling apathy or detachment or numbness or feeling like we don't care, then it's really important, I think, that we turn towards what we need for soul care, right? For restoration, for healing, for time off. I think a lot of people are in a place right now where they are not using the time off that's given to them. And I want to encourage you to do that because we need it, right? It's weird because we're not probably traveling or using our time off the way we used to. So then we think, well, what's the point? I'm just going to take days off and stay home. Yes, that is the point. You could get very savvy and craft your own home retreat. So there's a lot of different options, but time away from being present and holding space for really intense work is so important, because we cannot show up for our clients when we are drained and depleted. The other thing I really wanted to share from my heart today with you guys is this idea that burnout occurs because we are not giving ourselves space to grieve. So I have a beautiful book that I've always loved called Kitchen Table Wisdom, and it's by Rachel Naomi Raymond. I don't know if you guys know her as an author and a doctor. She's a beautiful writer. This is like a collection of little short stories, and I read it many years ago, but I just thought of this the other day when I was thinking about this topic, and I wanted to just share with you her philosophy on a burnout. She says in this little chapter called Professionals Don't Cry, she says the expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is an unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet. This sort of denial is no small matter. The way we deal with loss shapes our capacity to be present up to life more than anything else. The way we protect ourselves from loss may be the way in which we distance ourselves from life. Protecting ourselves from loss rather than grieving and healing our losses is one of the major causes of burnout. Very few professionals I have ever treated for burnout actually came in saying that they were burned out. I don't think most of them knew. The most common thing I've been told is, there's something wrong with me. I don't care anymore. Terrible things happen in front of me and I feel nothing. Yet people who really don't care are rarely vulnerable to burnout. We burn out not because we don't care, but because we don't grieve. So I really love that philosophy, and I believe it's very true. I think that when you stop and think about everything you're holding, we normalize it as therapists. We think that it's okay that we carry these huge cases and this really intense work, and we've kind of normalized the intensity. If you stopped and shared the specifics of your caseload with anyone else out there who's not a therapist, they would probably start crying. It would be really overwhelming for them to hear what our everyday life experience is like. And I'm not suggesting we pause all the time and break down and cry, but I do think we have to make space to grieve. Now, what does that mean to you? That's very personal. You know, it could mean that you need time for soul care, as we talked about, or restoration practices, or healing practices. It could mean that you need time off or better boundary management, or you do need time to cry. I think during this pandemic, there's been a couple times where I just kind of thought, I'm overwhelmed by the enormity of this. I'm overwhelmed by the global collective grief and sadness and fear. And as an empath and a highly sensitive person, it really hit me, and I wept. So I think that it's important that we just honor if that's what's happening for us, we make space for that. So, do you guys have any questions or comments? I know that this is relatable. I know that if you're going to be a great therapist in this line of work, you have to be willing to take a hard look at the intensity of our caseload and what we need in order to thrive, in order to maintain a healthy practice for years and years and years to come. So I hope this is inspiring you guys to think very deeply about your own needs, to tend to yourself and your soul, because it's so important that we do that. Trying to think what else I was going to share with you. I wanted to also tell you guys that I did hear you. There were about 130 of you who said that you were interested in building a retreat, learning how to build a retreat. If you're new to this page, you'll see that I do a lot of retreat work. I've done a ton of international retreats. I've done local retreats. I've done retreats for different corporations. And I am ready to teach you guys everything I know in a live 3-hour Zoom workshop that's going to be happening this month, October 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern. And people are already registering. So I pinned the post to the top of the page. If you guys want more info, you can click on the link. And if you're in my email list, you'll see that as well. Well, I wanted to thank you again for being here. I hope you take really gentle care of your amazing souls. You're doing great work, and we're reaching many people. We're doing really beautiful things with our therapeutic offerings out there. But that's not to say that we don't also need opportunities for rest, replenishment, rejuvenation, and restoration. All right, you guys, take good care, and I will see you back here live next Thursday for our Facebook Live chats at 4 o'clock. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.